Okay, I want to thank everybody, first of all, for showing up to this meeting that's been long in the making. My name is Pat Montano, in case there's any new folks on board that don't know me. I work in HR and compensation, and I take care of faculty, which is one of my areas, also the ILA, MLA area. And I also work in compensation, taking care of some divisions, mainly right now, physical science and a few divisions in ops. And I also take care of some unions. So with that said, I'm going to move forward. And again, thank you all for showing up to this meeting. Our agenda for today, like I said, we do have a lot of things to cover today. I'm going to be starting off with the UC faculty definitions, which they are very confusing because there's so many different ones to talk about. So we're going to mainly be talking about today are the three main ones, the regular, shared, and joint faculty appointments. I'm also going to share a UC faculty appointment grid with you folks. We're going to talk a little bit about visiting faculty. So those are all the faculty definitions that we're mainly going to focus on in the beginning of this presentation. Also, we're going to talk about UC faculty salary. How do they get paid? What summer salary does everybody get it? How does that happen? And also, we're going to talk a little bit about stipends and the LBNL salary support and when that occurs and what type of faculty qualify for that. From that point, we're going to go to the UC shared and joint faculty appointments, which is going to get into the specifics of why the majority of you are probably here. If you do have any faculty that are shared or joint, we're going to talk about stipends and approvals, which we have a new update on that, which is really good news. We had some changes that happened a couple of years ago that we are going to change back. Anyway, we're also going to talk a little bit about faculty memos, transfers, and terminations. Then the next piece that we're going to get into is faculty hires and promotions. And I've invited Meg Rodriguez, who takes care of the S&Es, postdocs, and all of that area. And she does have a piece of the faculty hires and promotions that she's going to go into later on in the presentation. Then we're going to talk about additional UC faculty appointments, which we have more because we already don't have enough, right? And then at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about the HR center responsibilities. So, oops, here it is. Oh, I really went. Okay, here we go. So what I'm going to start with is the UC regular faculty. So what we have, the University of California has dual appointments between UC campus and the laboratory. Now, this is some faculty that get hired from campus and they come up to the laboratory. They do work sometimes with the laboratory, sometimes it's affiliations. Their appointment as faculty at the laboratory, it's contingent upon their campus faculty appointment. So not everybody can be faculty at the lab. And it's subject to the guidelines that are found in the UC's academic personnel policy. Also, if you go into our lab RPM, you can take a look and if you look under appointments, under faculty, it will lay out the faculty that on campus that do qualify to be faculty at the laboratory. They're hired into EMPL class AC faculty and union code A1. So now the EMPL class, again, depends if you're looking at UC Path or you're looking at ATRIS, they could be different. I tried to stick with the UC Path at this point when I make any references to EMPL class or any union codes. Their job titles, there's two job titles they can be put into. A regular faculty, which is a non-senior or like a staff faculty, I should say, or a senior faculty. And the job codes would be S, and then you fill in the numbers there, 0.8 or S 0.9. UC campus is responsible for their pay and benefits. We do not pay them. So none of their pay or benefits come from the lab. All of that is administered through UC campus. And they may or may not receive summer salary. That's an option, or they may not be eligible. So these are the type of things that we'll talk about later on in the presentation that we need to confirm and verify because we don't really have a way of confirming within our system. These actually, you have to reach out to campus and confirm with them. And again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to speak up at any point. I have no problem with that. And questions are good because other people can hear them after we finish the recording. I'll go to the next one. So shared faculty. Okay, this is, again, some of you have heard of shared faculty, and these are the folks that have the memos. So with shared faculty, what it is that there's an arrangement between the lab and campus for a percentage of the faculty appointee salary and benefits. And it may include a stipend. Sometimes we have shared faculty that all they have is a stipend. So a shared faculty, this usually happens during the academic year, which is from July 1st to June 30th, which is different than our fiscal year, for work that they perform at the lab. So Albia now, they send payments to campus, which is authorized under a blanket purchase order and or individual purchase order if we have other UC campuses. So this is mainly with UC Berkeley. We have a very close relationship with them. The agreement to reimburse campus is documented and communicated via the shared faculty memo. So this is something that I'm sure all of you guys hear about. Usually it's campus accounting. They need to know how to invoice us. And then from there, we send payments to campus. So we make sure there's also the resource analysts, business managers that may be involved in this process. So there's monthly reimbursed amount. And again, this is reimbursed to campus. None of this touches any of the faculty's hands or their paychecks. Everything is happening on the outside. So this doesn't go through UC Path. All of this happens between a purchase order and invoicing. And then also there's a benefits burden rate that we pay, which is called the CBR. And that's provided to us by campus. So does anybody at this point have any questions? Okay, I'm going to keep moving forward. Now, this is the one, joint faculty. Okay, this term, you must be very careful how it is used. A joint faculty and shared faculty are not the same. And the biggest difference is that a joint faculty member is recruited and hired jointly with campus. So the recruitment happens jointly, they interview, they hire jointly, all of the terms are kind of banged out together. So right now we only have 2 campuses that we have joint faculty appointments with, which is UC Berkeley and UC Davis. The other big thing about a joint faculty appointment, that's the first major difference. The second major difference is that if this person, this joint faculty member, loses funding with the lab must provide the funding for 2 years. So there's a backstop there of 2 years that the lab must provide. So that's why these appointments are there's not that many of them. They're very rare, usually very senior level people that are involved in these type of appointments. But we do have a few, sometimes division directors, it depends. So the UC campus invoices the lab, and this is at 50% of the faculty appointees salary. 50% has to happen. This cannot be changed. If it is a different amount, we have to have justification. Even if it's less than 50%, we have to have justification because this is part of the MOU that was arranged with campus. So we definitely cover 50% of the faculty appointee salary and the benefits during this academic year. Again, the payment happens the same where we send payments, campus invoices us and we send payments to campus. Again, this one is documented with a joint faculty memo. So the difference is it would say joint faculty and not say shared faculty. These are the only 2 faculty that we use memos for in order to keep the financial piece moving back and forth. So does anybody have any questions at this point? Okay, so now we know the difference between a regular faculty, a shared faculty, and a joint faculty. So I'm going to go ahead. Go ahead, Amberly, go ahead and speak. I'm not able to look at questions, so go ahead and speak up.
Yeah, so if the lab loses part of the funding, then what happens?
The lab is there. We're basically committed to funding this person. So basically, it would be the employee, the faculty member would lose funding if they didn't have funding for their work. Then the lab would have to provide it.
Okay.
I can add to that. It's usually the division. The reason why it gets vetted so much through the for senior scientists through the lab staff committee and why they are funded at 50%. It's because of this, so that they're not laid off, so we don't go through this. But the division's basically committing when they put them forward as kind because this is equivalent to, sorry if I'm not making sense.
That's okay,
I was
Mary.
eating my lunch at the same time. So senior scientists, this is equivalent to the senior scientists. And so why it's 2 years at 50%, because senior scientists also have this commitment of 1 year at 100%. And so this is supposed to be equivalent. So that's why Pat was emphasizing like joint, don't use that term loosely. It really means something, and it means a big commitment. And so there's a lot of vetting going on when they make someone joint. And then the division would usually cover it in their overhead, or they're also, the division director will look actively at other projects that they might be able to work on, so that they can get paid from those other projects. So they'll look for like open projects that their skill set might meet while they're trying to apply for other funding sources. So hopefully that answered.
No, that's a really good explanation, Meg. And again, too, with the faculty, people think just because it's faculty, they're working at the, oh, we share them. Sure we do. But again, they're the shared faculty, joint faculty. I say regular faculty just to kind of make the distinction. They are different. So I'll go to the next point. Also, again, be careful with the phrase joint faculty, since the term is not interchangeable. The title joint faculty should only be used for those employees recruited and hired under the special terms and conditions outlined in the joint faculty memos of understanding between LBNL, UC Berkeley, or UC Davis. So whenever you have, say, somebody's, one of your divisions, they're talking about hiring, faculty, then they start using the with shared faculty. You really need to go back and find out exactly how this employee is going to be hired into the lab. And that's really critical. Again, joint faculty, since they're also hired jointly, there's a lot of more of a stringent process that it goes through. And we'll talk a little bit more with Meg about this. Hers is about senior joint, but joint in general, this also has to have a letter from Mike Weatherall, and a process is being put together right now. I'm going to be working with Margaret on that so we can kind of get that a little bit more established. This here is the matrix I was talking about, that it kind of gives you just a breakout of the types of faculty, the definition and funding, and what campus. So regular faculty, it could be a UC academic appointee. They might be paid summer salary. Again, summer salary is something that they can choose, and you have to check that they're eligible for it. For instance, I believe it's UCSF, they pay annually. So since they pay annually, they're not allowed to get summer salary. They're not eligible for it. So each campus, it's always best to just check and make sure that you're validating the type of payment they should receive. So we go through the share faculty. Again, that effort at each location is negotiable. Shared faculty, they can have maybe 10% of their salary covered. They might get a stipend, they might not get a stipend, depends on if they have a leadership role or not. And again, summer salary, it's optional. The joint faculty in big red, 50% that we would be providing if there was any kind of loss of funding. So the joint faculty, again, is jointly recruited. 50% is you cannot change that. 50% of salary is what we pay. If we do want to change it, we do have to make a justification, and there is a process for that. But, and they may or may not choose summer salary or a stipend. So again, verify of campus if it's allowable or not. Then we have visiting faculty. And visiting faculty appointments are faculty that hold faculty appointments at non-UC colleges and universities. And we do have a few of those folks. They could be they can be from different universities. We could have people maybe that came from Stanford or others, and that are working here at the lab. We have also a visiting researcher, which they don't necessarily have to be faculty. They could maybe be from another national laboratory. And those are pretty rare. We don't have any visiting researchers right now, but we do have that job code there. And I did put a link here in this slide that if you want to, you can go directly to appointments and look up visiting faculty. It's part of the faculty RPM. And there's a section in there, if you go to appointments under visiting researcher, and take a look at those also. They're on active pay status throughout the year. I think all of our faculty at this point is in active pay status throughout the year. So I know with UC Path and Pat Johnson, I think there's still a little bit of some glitches to work out on that, but definitely for visiting faculty, the salary for visiting faculty is also based upon the faculty salary at home, their home institution. So you need to confirm the monthly salary rate with the home institution. Same for visiting researcher, and that's determined according to individual circumstances. So again, visiting researcher, not as common. But they are eligible for benefits, vacation, or sick leave in accordance with their LB&L appointment type, which I think with visiting faculty, because they're limited. So that would be something that we'd also need to take a look at further. Any questions on visiting faculty? Okay. So now salary, UC faculty salary. The salary is set by UC. We do not set the faculty salary. The campus is the one that sets their salary, and they're also paid by campus. And what they're usually paid is 9/12, which means 9 months of effort is paid over 12 calendar months. Or they can be paid 11/12, which is 11 months of effort paid over 12 calendar months, but that is extremely rare. Some of them can be paid annually, just the same way that we are, which is, 12 months over 12. So merit increases for faculty happen July 1st. Faculty, they may not receive merit increases every year, or increases can get delayed. For instance, I'm working on some right now that happened maybe 2 years ago. Why that happens, I'm not sure, but it's a very long process when they get merit increases. They also may receive an across the board or cost of living increases on October 1st, which did happen this year. So, and I'll go more into that towards the end. I'll give you guys all the status on what we have going on right now. Usually the way that we do the merit increases is compensation, which is me. I work with UC Berkeley. I work with ATRIS, and I work with payroll to update ATRIS and UC Path with new salary information. So right now, once a year, I get the salary information from Heather Archer, who's the vice provost at Berkeley. And she helps to update what the current salaries are, because we have no way of seeing what these salaries are. And then from there, we either update them, we do it on October 1st, we update them via a batch upload, which can possibly include the late 7/1 increases. But again, it depends on how many we have. If we don't have that many, I may reach out and ask for you to manually update these in UC Path. Manual corrections to employees' history may be needed, depending on the situations. Retroactive summer salary pay will be processed and paid if applicable. So you might have some folks that work, say this last summer, we find out in October, oh, they got a 7/1 increase. But meanwhile, they worked this last summer and their increase wasn't included in their pay. So once we get the ATRIS, once we get UC Path and ATRIS updated, then I notify payroll, letting them know that we have some retro payments to be made. They are able to verify it within the system, and they will then go ahead and make the retro payments. So also sometimes I also hear from the field, they'll say, hey, so-and-so got they got a raise, and we need to update this, faculty's person's raise. So if that happens, which can happen, which I might not even be aware of, you might get the information before me, definitely send me some kind of a verification or confirmation email. And that way we can get it set up, and we can go ahead and take care of it right away. The sooner is better. And also, if they do have a memo and their pay somehow is affecting, say, a stipend, or maybe there's a % salary, that may have to also be updated. And there could be a retro situation there too. So everything's depending on each individual faculty member. Summer salary. Now, this is something I'm really not that involved in. I believe the HR centers are the ones that really kind of take care of this area. And Tracy was one of the people that I believe she used to do a call out for who was going to be receiving summer salary, who was going to be working for the summer. So per the APM, which is the Academic Personnel Manual, UC faculty, they may receive additional pay for work performed during the summer. And the summer salary rate is 1/9 of the academic annual rate. So the salary rate this is the rate that we want to store in UC Path and in ATRIS, is their summer salary rate. Because again, remember, if they choose to work during the summer, this is the rate that payroll will be paying them. This is the only thing that we actually pay directly to the employee is summer salary. That does not get paid by campus. So, and also the salary rate is not rounded to the nearest dollar. The maximum they can work is 57 days of additional pay for work performed during the summer. And again, the HR centers, resource analysts, and payroll process the summer salary via the faculty summer pay request form. And also please check with your resource analyst regarding any specific procedures in your division. So each division could be slightly different. Any questions? And again, go ahead and speak up because I can't see you right now or look at any questions that are happening in chat.
Hey, Pat, it's Selena.
Hey, Selena.
Tina posted that Jenny and Tina will be sending out the notifications for summer salary this year.
Oh, great. That's good to hear, Tina. Tina, and who else? I'm sorry.
Jenny.
Jenny. Thank you, Jenny and Tina.
Also, Pat, you mentioned sooner than later. Is there is something with timing that needs to happen when we're submitting all of this paperwork? Does timing come into play?
Yes, it will. As far as the summer salary, again, you have to speak with your division. I am not the summer salary person. Timing will come into play with the memos. And I do believe it would come into play with this situation. So I think Tina and Jenny would be the best people to speak with about that.
And does this ever cause any issues with UC Path because of any retro payments that may be generated?
No. The only
Cool.
issue with UC Path that you have to make sure is that we do have the most recent salary in the system.
Perfect. Thank you, Pat.
You're welcome. Thank you for that, Selena. I appreciate it. If you can help me with those questions, that's really great. I'm going to move next. So now the calculations. I'm going to show you the calculations, but we do have a template that does all of this for you. But it's probably good to know just how it's done. So this is an example of a summer salary pay rate of 1/9 of academic annual rate. We basically take the faculty campus academic rate, say of 190,000. The calculation would be to take that, divide it by 9, and that will give you your monthly rate. So again, and faculty pay is not rounded in ATRIS. So if it's 0.11 with 11 cents, you want to add that 11 cents in there. And again, we do have a calculation template, which I think a lot of you have seen already, but I'm going to give you a demonstration on it in a few minutes. So now we're talking about stipends here. We have our UC shared and joint faculty stipends. Stipends, they can either be a fixed dollar amount or a percentage of salary. And it's based upon the fiscal year conversion of the academic annual salary. So it's usually faculty positions with lab managerial responsibilities, which would be division directors. They would receive a stipend. And stipends amounts up to 15% of the fiscal year converted salary. They're paid for the duration of the assignment. They may exceed 2 years, but not exceed the duration of the faculty employee's assignment. A faculty division director appointment may be paid a stipend of up to 30% of their annualized base salary figure per UC guidelines for the duration of the assignment. So the lab pays 100% of the stipend. Again, it's paid via UC payroll and it's invoiced to the lab. Remember that invoice purchase order that's outside of UC Path. Agreements to reimburse campus, it's via the shared or joint faculty memo, and payments to campus are authorized under the PO. So when I talked about salary support, it could be actual salary percent, or we're talking about faculty stipends. It could also be stipends. The UC shared and joint faculty stipends update. Okay, this is something that happened when I very first took over faculty. In the beginning, they said that stipends were considered additional pay and that they were subject to the 3-month of additional pay limit during the summer months. Well, apparently, I think that campus came back recently, it was this last late summer, and said that the interpretation was incorrect, that it was not considered additional pay. So we can actually go back to the old way that we used to do it, and we can be paid, stipends can be paid throughout the entire academic year of 12 months instead of 9. So what we're going to do is I didn't want to start, changing it midstream. So this coming July, when we do the new memos, that's when we'll be using the new template that will have it in one place, which will make our lives so much easier and I don't think less confusing. So I have new memo formats I'll be putting out later on, and also calculation templates so that it'll accommodate this. Okay, let's see, stipends are calculated against the fiscal, let's see, the method of, okay. So the stipends are calculated against the converted fiscal year salary. The method of converting the academic annual salary to fiscal year salary for the purposes of calculated additional compensation, excluding summer salary. So they're actually calculated slightly different than summer salary. So what they do is we increase the academic base salary by 16%, and then we round it to the nearest $100. It results in the fiscal year converted salary, which is used as the basis for a stipend. So this is why I highly recommend you use the template unless you wanted to do all this manually, which I think would take some time. So calculating, say, a 7% monthly stipend for faculty appointee with an annual salary of $171,500. You basically would take your annual salary, increase it by 16%, and then round it to the nearest $100, and then calculate 7% stipend, which would be the $198,900 times 0.07, and that would give you your annual amount. And then from there, you want to break it out into your monthly amount. So you take the annual divided by 12, and that's what would be paid over 12 months. So again, this calculation is built into the formula in the template. So I'm going to give you a quick, I'm going to end the show right now. Can you guys, what are you seeing right now? Can you see the calculation?
No.
How do I get my screen sharing back on?
Yes, the calculating the fiscal year conversion,
Yes.
Slide 15.
Can you see it now?
Oh, yeah.
the spreadsheet, yes.
It's a spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet. So this is what you're going to use to do your calculations. And again, sometimes you can use just this upper part up here. Say it's from 8, let's see, from here to here, just to figure out what you have to put into your UC Pass salary. So that way you make sure you have your summer salary. So say we put the 190 in here. So what you'll enter here is your 9/12 academic annual salary provided by campus. So when you get the salary from campus, just make sure it's an academic salary and not an annual salary, because there are a few that have annual salaries. So when you put in the academic salary here, it will automatically calculate your monthly salary. And then from here, if you notice this line here, it says UC summer rate. This is the rate here in hot pink. Use this rate for your UC Path salary. This is the amount that we want to use in UC Path, because if somebody was to take summer salary, this is how they would be paid. Then we have this one here. It says fiscal year conversion, 9/12 increased by 16%. This is where your stipends are going to be calculated from. So when you're filling out this form, again, you're going to put in the name. This is the academic year. Make sure we have the one that says revised January 12th, because that's the new one I just made. Your initial, which this would probably be initial, and then the date it's prepared. Enter in the academic salary amount provided by campus. Again, if this is brand new, or if this is a salary amount that I may not be aware of, please provide me an email or something also from campus so I can confirm that. And then everything else will kind of follow. So say this person, it's a shared, let's just make something up, and they have a 10% support. So you'd enter your percent of salary support here, and then everything else will calculate. So this is what your salary support, your annual, is going to be based off of this here, your academic salary times that percent. And then it's broken out monthly. And then let's say, okay, we also need a stipend. This person needs a 10% stipend. So we just put in the 10%, again, enter the stipend support there. And you'll see here, it's being calculated up against 10, B10, and the 10%, because that has a different calculation. And then that will be calculated out. Here are your burden rates here. So this is for your benefits and everything that falls under benefits burden. Campus also provides this to us. I usually find this out about June or so, right before the next academic year. So there's been times though that it's been late and we've had to actually change memos because of it. So in here, this is what you would put your burden rate, and this would also be automatically calculated. And here's your total cost, which would be your salary support plus stipend, and then your burden rates included. So this one is going to pick up every single one of these cells here. And again, you may not need this to say it's not a memo, but I got a new faculty person and I need to get them in the system. How do I make sure that I put the correct amount? And it's really, it's very important that you get the correct amount in there, because the way that we update salaries is I have to go pull a query. I pull all of our faculty salaries that have been input into our system. I send it over to Heather Archer at UC Berkeley, and she then verifies them for me. So this is just for Berkeley. And again, if there's something that's off, or maybe an academic amount was put in there, then all of a sudden she does a verification and I'm kind of like, wow, why is this amount so high or so low? And that could be it. Maybe the salary was input incorrectly. So there's also instructions here. If you want to read each one of these, it'll tell you exactly where to go and what needs to be input into each area. Again, this calculation template should only be used for UC faculty that's paid 9/12. So if they're paid annually, you need to contact me so that we can run a different calculation for that. So is there any questions about that, about the calculation template? Is it pretty self-explanatory?
I think Debbie has a question.
Okay, Debbie, what's your question?
I was just wondering where we can find the latest calculation template, and then also will the presentation be sent around?
Yeah, we're going to get into that towards the end. So a little more patience, and Meg and I are going to kind of talk about that. But for now, I do have it's a shared drive that I share with, and I'll just make sure that everybody who's at this meeting has access to that shared drive. But this template is not going to be used until the next coming academic year, which is going to be, I believe it's 22, let's see, because right now we're in 21, 22, it's going to be 22, 23. So this will be this coming July that we'll be using this one.
Thank you.
Let me get back to the, okay. So has everybody seen the screen again on the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Let's see, I think this is where I left off. Okay. The next thing too is that faculty stipends. You know, I'm just going to stay in this mode because it's going to be easier. I need to kind of jump around. Faculty stipends require approvals, and it requires lab director approval of stipends, including faculty stipends. So the same as other stipends, we have to have approvals for faculty. But the approval process has been delegated to the ALDs. This cannot be redelegated. So we at minimum need to get an ALD approval for a faculty stipend. The stipends, no matter how they change, whether they change up, they change down, we need to get approval on that. And we have a UC faculty stipend approval memo template that to document this. I didn't realize we had this template. So I found it and it's like, this is a really good thing to have. So I'm going to just show it to you really quick. Let me see if I can. Where is it? Can you see this? It's a Word document. Yes?
No.
No,
Oh, okay. I think as I'm jumping around to different things here. Now?
yep,
Word document. Okay, so this is the template for stipend approvals. And it's basically similar to like the memo, but very short. And it's just so that we can document the stipend, what the person's faculty name, what is their leadership role, because usually stipends are given for leadership roles, the effective date, in recognition of additional duties associated with this leadership role, the manager's name, dollar amounts, annual and monthly, is it a percent? And then here we have an or, because some of them can be fixed or they can be a percent of. And what a fixed stipend would be is we are going to give you $1,500 every month, no matter what. It doesn't matter if your salary changes. It doesn't matter, you know, what changes. It was just this fixed amount. Other stipends can be a percent of salary. So that would be the difference. So once we get this, we'd need to get the ALD's approval, name under here, signed and approved. and then sent to me. It said, this is an old one, it says Stacy Green. I'm actually updating these right now. So that would be for the stipend, to get stipend approval. Okay, so now I'm back at the PowerPoint presentation. The other thing to let you know too, why this is important, is because faculty stipends with the approving ALD, they are reported annually to DOE. So this is a DOE deliverable that I need to report out every year. So that's the other reason why we want to make sure that we have all of our documentation in order. So now the shared faculty and joint faculty memos. The agreement to reimburse campus for the shared and joint faculty costs, they're documented and communicated via the shared or joint faculty memo. So what it is, we have a standardized memo templates, and we've added additional CCs to memo as needed, because in some cases you might have an HR assistant that is the person that needs to collect all these and put them together. It would be good to have their name on the CC, because when I send out the memos, what happens is once they're approved by campus, they get sent out to, campus and then also to the lab. And it could be to the RA, it could be also to the contact with the division. The HR division partners get a copy of this. And I've had a few folks ask me to include other division partners in the memo, because it mainly goes to the senior division partners. So the new memo format is also going to accommodate the change to the stipend for pay frequency, which is going to be, now it's just going to be one line instead of two. So I'm going to just show you one. I'll just pull out a shared one here. Okay, this is the new format that we're going to be going with. It basically will have the name of the senior division partner. It has my name. This is to Heather, and she's the one that will review all of these memos, and she'll also review the calculation template, which will go with the memo. So that way, when you fill out all the information here in the salary support box, it should match what the calculation memo is showing. So they have proof of how you came about to these numbers. So from here, we'll just have the academic year. The compensation memo confirms that doctor, and then the name would go in here. Also, whether, with UC Berkeley, let's see. Right here, we also want to insert a brief description of the work that will be performed at LBNL. Really 2 to 3 sentences at the most. We have some that get a little bit carried away and want to put kind of a dissertation in here, but it's really not necessary. It's just really why are they receiving this? Why are they, as a shared faculty member, what is the work that they'll be doing? We talk about the salary support will be at what percentage, and the dates are July 1st through June 30th. In addition, if they were to receive a stipend, we have this section in here that you can fill out that would say what kind of monthly stipend. If not, we could remove, this section could be removed. So in here is that you'd have the name of the person, the percent of salary support, the base monthly salary billed, wait a minute. Salary support, the percent. This is the dollar amount. Then this is the CBR, this is your burden rate. Then here's your stipend dollar amount. Here's your stipend burden rate. And then the project ID, very, very important. Talk to your RAs, business manager, whoever is in charge of these project IDs, that we have them correct. Because what will happen every year is I work with procurement and they reconcile all of this to this big giant purchase order. And if project IDs are no longer valid or they no longer have funds, these are the type of things I have no clue are happening unless you guys reach out to the RAs to get this information to me. In this section here, we also have, if there's a stipend and it's calculated at a percent, the CBR, what the CBR is. And again, this just matches up to the calculation spreadsheet. Now in here for UC Berkeley, those 3 people off the top are automatically involved. These are the folks, except for the first one, I'm sorry, she's in our procurement, but it's Leo and Sonali. These are the 2 financial accounting controls. Those are the folks that really kind of keep track of all this and how payments are made. What we also need is a UCB department contact. which it could be whatever the, maybe the professor in charge of the department, whoever's, we need to have that contact, whoever's maybe authorizing payment for this here. I mean, authorizing invoice. And then we have our resource analysts. And then you can add any other CCs that should be added. And again, I recommend that if you are expecting, say, an HR assistant to help, please add their name in there, because otherwise I have no clue to send them a copy also.
Hi, Pat. It's Tyra. How are you?
Hi, Tyra, pretty good.
Good, good, good. Just wanting to let you know that I created the faculty smart sheet for summer faculty some years ago. And I know that the lab is using that widely. It's lab-wide used. And ever since that was created, the HRAs have not had anything to do with faculties. So it's been years now. So I don't know if other areas may work different, but yeah, if there was anything new for us, this will be new, because we have not worked with faculties for at least the last 3 years or 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So just something to keep in mind for all of the partners.
Yeah, that's definitely, that would
Okay.
be really helpful. Yeah, because like I said, it's those project IDs, when I start having to chase them down, it can get, you know, it can get a little, and I'm also working with actually Christy Shaw with an RA. We're working through the process too. So I'm hoping to have some new updates on this. Okay, I'm trying to watch time now. I gotta get moving along.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
So no problem, but thank you, Tyra. I'm looking forward to working with you and on this stuff too. We have the standardized memos, the new memo format, which I just showed you. And again, there's also for the joint faculty, there's a section that's, it says 50%. Any changes, you have to get some kind of a justification for it. So we have the UC faculty template. You have to complete it, attach it to the memo, prepare the memos or forward to me. Right now, I'm kind of been working on the memos because there's been just so many things flying around and everybody's been so busy. I've been just kind of taking that on for this time frame, but that's going to change once we come back into July, and hopefully we get everything kind of settled again. So what I do is the memos would come to me, I review them, I make sure they're in good order, I forward them to the APO, which is the Academic Personnel Office for review. Once I get approval from there, then they're forwarded to all the CCs and to accounting and to campus accounting department, and then our CCs. The HR centers would be the ones to update the memos throughout the year when needed. So our fiscal year, beginning UC's fiscal year is July through June. Each time the faculty member's salary changes, that can happen when we need an update. If the stipend amount changes, and when the shared or joint faculty arrangement or the stipend ends. We do need a memo to say that there will be an end to a stipend. So sometimes I reach out for that, or even every year, they may not be getting anything, but let's document that this year, but they still maintain their appointment because they can still be called a shared faculty, but they're just not receiving any salary support at this time. Now, joint cannot do that. Remember, joint always has to have that 50% that we have to back. The other thing too about UC faculty, please verify eligibility for additional pay. So important. Because we have a do not pay list. There's certain UC faculty members may not be paid by LB&L because the terms and conditions of their grants may disallow them additional pay from other sources, or their campus position disallows them additional compensation from other sources, or they could be paid annually like UCSF, which wouldn't allow it. So always confirm with the UC campus department before processing any summer salary or committing to pay a stipend. Really important. Transfers from the lab to UC. Right now, I'm asking folks to just refer to the pay path process and make sure that you include a campus hire letter for a transfer. So from somebody that's going to leave the lab and they're going to go become faculty at UC, this is kind of the process in here, things that you would have to take a look at. Make sure any salary changes, make sure the job title changes, employee classification, we have to pay out vacation balance, any sick accrual stops. This is called HACPC impact, which is the highest average pay compensation. That could have an impact. A retirement benefit impact if there's a break in service, and may provide copies of some of the documentation in the employee file to campus. So basically that's a little bit about the faculty transfer process. And then the opposite would be from UC to the lab. We would definitely recruit. There's salary limitations. The lab annual salary can be no greater than 16% increase over the academic annual salary, rounded to the nearest 100. Remember, does that sound familiar? Similar to the stipend. That's the dollar amount that we are allowed to pay. Also, the benefits, they have to re-enroll in benefits. We have to get their campus benefits validated, and prior UC service needs to be validated and service date adjusted, and also any kind of retirement benefit impact if there's a break in service. Then last year, we have our terminations. When a faculty member retires or terminates from UC employment, they must simultaneously be terminated at the lab, because they would no longer be eligible, because they're no longer holding an eligible campus appointment for our RPM. And if you take a look at that, again, go to appointments, go to faculty, and it will tell you what an eligible campus appointment is. So professor of graduate school is considered an emeritus appointment, and it's not eligible for campus appointment for a lab faculty appointment. So anybody who's retired or who has gone into these other types of appointments, they can be rehired as a rehired retiree in the appropriate job title. So we do have the staff or a senior faculty SE retiree. So that is a job title that was created, I think it was about a year or so ago, relatively new. And we do, I think we have one, maybe two people in that position right now. The other thing to keep in mind, just like any other rehired retiree, we must wait 30 days. So with that being said, I'm going to pass this on to Meg. Let me stop sharing. Oh, Emily, you have a question? I'm sorry.
Yes, a quick question. You said a retired faculty can be rehired as a senior faculty SE retiree.
It depended what they originally, if they left as a senior faculty, then they'd come back as that position. So they wouldn't get promoted per se.
Okay, so is there a job code associated with it that I can locate somewhere?
I would have to look that up for you.
Okay.
Because I don't have it off the top of my head. If you could just send me a quick email on that, I can definitely look it up for you.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emily. And I'm now going to go ahead and pass this on to Meg. Meg, I'm going to stop sharing. And you go on ahead and start sharing.
Okay, thanks, Pat. So Pat and I will talk a little bit more, but we wanted things to be together. So just wanted to also cover, when you're talking about UC faculty, the hire and promotions that you do for faculty, and where that sits. So I'm sharing the right screen, right?
Yep.
My little green square went away. Okay, so for the faculty case templates, so when faculty is either hired or promoted, you would go into the Pathways website, pathways.lbl.gov. There is a section for faculty where it says faculty scientists. So you want to go there, select faculty scientist, and then you can click whether it's a faculty scientist hire. And then if you click that, it moves down. There's also the promotion, and then there's senior faculty hire and promotion. And then when you're putting together the case, so there's a significantly less amount of things that are asked for in a faculty case than what is asked for in the other S&E cases. That's because these are typically driven by campus. So just showing here the hire case for faculty is the case cover sheet, the evaluation memo, which is the memo from the division director as to why this person be promoted, and it should be driven by campus. And then they'll include their CV and their current publication list. And then the only difference I think in the senior is that it's their current publication, and then it's also their promoted position description. So it should be driven by the campus appointment. So faculty scientists at the lab is equivalent to assistant professor, associate professor on campus. So when they go to associate professor, there would be no movement. They would still be considered a faculty scientist. They are only promoted to a faculty senior scientist when they become a full professor. And so like Pat was talking about, so regular and shared would both follow the Same process that is currently on the website. And then for our senior faculty joint, as we were explaining in the beginning, are very special. They're a very special commitment, and it is equivalent to our senior scientists, and they have the same rights as our senior scientists, whereas if they were to run out of funding, there's a year backstop. And so the equivalent to that is the 2 years at 50%. So meant to be equivalent. And so those are the only cases I'll talk about in a second that would go to the LSC. And so they're also full professor. And so with those cases, we're actually working on what materials we can actually get from campus, and we'll be updating that as to what that case would look like. So it should be different. So if you get one between now and the time that we get that posted, feel free to please reach out to us, and we'll work with you to get the case put together. But that should not, it should not be very long. I think we're kind of working on that right now. On the approvals, so I highlighted here, this lists all of the S&E appointments, but you can see highlighted in orange, the faculty and the level of approval. So faculty scientist only requires division director approval. And that, like I said, is the assistant professor and the associate professor. Faculty senior scientist, that is just regular or shared, only requires the ALD, the DLD, which is our deputy lab director for research. And then the faculty senior scientist joint would have to go through a full LSC review. And that's because they have that promise of those 2 years of 50% backstop. And so all of the cases that require any review by the deputy lab director for research or the director or the LSC would come through the Pathways office. And you can submit those on the Pathways website. And that's all for my section. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on that.
And one other thing too, Meg, I wanted to bring up real quick is I want to thank Meg, first of all, for collaborating with us in HR. And what my plan is to do, she's offered to let me go ahead and start posting things in that faculty section. So we plan to make it a little bit more robust. She's got 2 areas. One is for like a front facing, which the general public can see. And then there's another HR area that is only HR driven. So I'm going to be working with Meg to get some of these like videos that we have, our templates and so forth, set up into that website. So there's a one-stop place that everybody can go to. Meanwhile, like I said, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be setting everybody up within the share drive for now. So can everybody see my screen? I'm back up on the PowerPoint. Somebody say yay or nay. Yes? Okay, cool.
Yay.
All righty, thank you much. Now I'm going to move on to additional faculty titles because we didn't have enough to begin with. I have like 3 minutes to finish this off. So we also have, now these faculty titles are actually LB&L employees. So they can also hold titles that are faculty on campus. One of them is lecturer. They can hold that title of lecturer, and here the definition is, and then we talk about funding. So usually if there's any kind of like teaching or anything that has to do with their appointment that falls outside the de minimis teaching guideline, which is I think they can teach every other semester for 2 years. You can also look that up under teaching and other appointments. Then they would have to go into an MLA. So for instance, if I have to do some teaching, I have to do, back-to-back semesters, an MLA then would be used. And hey, I am the same person that does that. So you go ahead and feel free to reach out to me if you have any of these situations where you have a staff scientist that needs to go do work on campus because of a faculty appointment that they also have a dual appointment. Last but not least, here are all the HR center responsibility. One of them is ensuring that the faculty is hired into the correct job codes, EMPL classes, and union codes. Make sure that you update salary information for non-UC Berkeley faculty and for late pay actions. Non-UC Berkeley faculty, I really suggest you reach out to the campus to get that information. We have no way of knowing what needs to be done. Also confirming with campus if additional pay is allowed prior to paying the pay summer salary or stipend, make sure you verify and confirm. Shared and joint faculty memo preparation, that falls under there. And then also initiating any termination of faculty employees if they retire or they terminate a campus employment. So I'm going to just talk really quick here on our current status update. And I mentioned a little bit earlier that we did have we had changes with faculty. So I'm going to have to be updating memos. I have taken that on myself. I went ahead and updated them. We have a few folks that though also had merit increases. So there might be more than one memo. So for instance, if they had a merit increase 7-1, and then they had an across the board on October 1st, I need to make a new 7-1 memo that covers 7-1 through September 30th. Then come October 1st is the change again. Because remember, they got an increase and then they got an across the board. So that's happening right now. Tyra's going to be helping me a little bit on that. She's going to be touching part of our smart sheet. I'm hoping she can give me some ideas. I love the idea you had there, Tyra. That was great. And so I'll be reaching out to most of you soon. My goal is just to focus on faculty this coming week and just to get this taken care of. So from this point forward, we should really just be starting to get into a regular schedule. And again, I apologize. We've had, our staffing transitions going on in compensation. So it's been keeping me very, very busy, to say the least. I really appreciated Warren and all the work he did. So anyway, with that being said, I think we're going to hit the time. Does anybody have any other questions?
Just Pat, it's Bill. Can we
Hi,
get a
Bill.
copy of this slide deck?
Oh, definitely, yes. What
Yeah.
I'm going to do, like I said, right now, I do have a shared drive that I share with all of you. I will resend it out to everybody so that way that, we'll all have a copy of this, and then the new memos and so forth that will also be coming out.
Yeah, because it's a great resource. I think, our issue is we don't have that many, and then they always pop up.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you're scrambling to find resources because you can't remember everything.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I'm finding things that I've taken this on for I think I'm going on my second year, but also working with all of, PMP and so forth. Yeah, there's a lot there. So I definitely want to get it all together in one spot.
Yeah, great. Okay, thanks.